Imagine my shock at this next headline. Inspector General says Pentagon backed Afghan units involved in gross violations of human rights. Wow, gross violations of human rights. So they say this, quote, a law known as the Leahy Law bans the U.S. government from assisting foreign forces that have been found to commit gross human rights violations. But exceptions can be made for national security reasons under the so-called notwithstanding clause. Wow. So that's a hilarious law that by no stretch of the imagination is followed at all in the United States of America. Oh, we can't arm people who commit human rights violations. Really? Then we can't even arm our own military because they do human rights violations all the fucking time. So what? That's ridiculous. But also, the U.S. supports 73% of the world's dictatorships. Do they invoke that rule there? No. In fact, they make a total any nation state, they're exempt. Oh, isn't that fucking convenient? So if it's a dictatorship, yeah, you could arm them. Why? I don't know. They're not a fighting force. They're a government, so therefore governments are exempt from claims of terrorism or human rights violations by definition. Well, again, isn't that mighty fucking convenient for your shitty-ass position? Okay. So the investigation was requested by 93 members of Congress after news reports alleged that a Pentagon policy kept U.S. troops from reporting when Afghan police and militia officials sexually assaulted children in a practice that has a name. It's called bachabazi or boy play. U.S. troops were punished when they reported the abuse. Oh, God. We've spoken about this in the past. And this wasn't as big of a scandal as it should have been. I think the New York Times and some print outlets reported on it, but it barely made a blip in the radar on the shitty, corporate network, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, so on and so forth, ABC, NBC, CBS. So the U.S. is arming and funding and backing Afghan warlords, and those warlords have child sex slaves. Now, you would think that that totally blows up the entire idea of supporting them, but no. They're like, they're important. They're important. You guys claim, listen, the reason we're doing all these wars is human rights. We care about human rights. We got to uphold human rights, which is why we're backing the warlords who have child sex slaves. That's like saying we care about human rights, so that's why we back Adolf Hitler. What? No. That would defeat the purpose of defending human rights because he doesn't believe in human rights. He believes in the opposite. Same thing here. We believe in the dignity of each and every human being, and we believe in human rights and justice, which is why we're backing people with child sex slaves. So that means you believe in the opposite of human rights, or you don't care about that. It's more about regional dominance. It's more about imperialism. It's more about natural resources. It's more about the U.S. maintaining our position as the world's sole superpower, even if we got to make unsavory deals with people. Again, I just told you, 73% of the world's dictatorships, we back the U.S. as we pretend to be in favor of democracy. Fucking hilarious. We back most of the world's dictatorships, and then we go, we believe so much in democracy. It's unbelievable. I mean, that's all we care about. We care about freedom and democracy, bro. Freedom and democracy, bro. So what happened was, and I love how they explain this in the article. They go, well, the U.S. stopped funding some of the people committing, quote, gross human rights violations, but they continued funding 9 other units. Oh, that's so cute. We're like, okay, let's not fund this little one. Put that aside. Keep funding the 9 of them, but shut up, and now we get to go out there and say, we stopped funding the human rights violators. See? The little piece of that we did stop funding, we're going to say that that's what we did. We're going to ignore the 9 units we kept funding. And they go on to say in the piece, oh, but don't worry, because the ones they kept funding were not the ones that had child sex slaves. So then what are the other, quote, gross human rights violations? What are they? They don't say. So that's up to our imagination. Who are we funding? Are we funding people who behead people in the public square? Oh, that's right. We back Saudi Arabia and they do that. So already, yes. But is it like who the fuck else are we backing? you have to be insanely ignorant or the most naive person on the planet to believe any of the bullshit that's spewed about the United States' role as the sole superpower. That we care about human rights, democracy, freedom, justice, all those flowery things. That we're the world police. Actually, you know what? We are the world police. We're like Alonzo from Training Day. That's how we're the world police. So, I just need you to understand this. You've been lied to your entire life about how noble and wonderful your government is. And that's why non-interventionist foreign policy is the only policy that makes sense. You could support, to stop a genocide, you could support international action through the UN, but unilateral action by the U.S., you have to know that we're not interested in protecting people. That has nothing to do with it. Because if we cared about protecting people, I don't know, we wouldn't have backed people with fucking child sex slaves. We wouldn't back the Saudi government, which is currently committing a genocide in Yemen. I mean, the list goes on and on. We wouldn't back the permanent apartheid state, the illegal occupier Israel. I mean, this stuff is fucking obvious, but here we are. Their own report, the Inspector General, okay, yeah, we're backing people commit gross human rights violations. By the way, where's the resistance? I thought you guys, here you go. Trump now owns this. This is Trump's now. All these abuses happened under Bush, they happened under Obama, but now Trump's the president. They're happening under him. He's facilitating them now. So where's your grandstanding? We're going to pull out of these wars. This terrible, terrible president. We're going to pull out of these wars to stop him. Terrible man. Nothing. Shithole! Russia! Oh, you want me to end the wars? But I'm for the wars. Back to shitholes in Russia. Because when it's time to actually resist on policy, they're nowhere to be found because they don't disagree on policy. In this country, you have the Republican Party and the Republican Light Party. And they all agree on deregulation for Wall Street, they all agree on tax cuts for the rich, and they all agree on endless war. And that's the fucking problem.